There are moments in life when everything seems silent, when prayers go unanswered, when doors stay shut, and when hope feels like a flickering candle in a storm. You look around, and nothing seems to be working. You've done all you can, you've prayed all you know how, and yet, heaven seems quiet. But I came here to tell you tonight that silence does not mean absence. God has not forgotten you. He is setting the stage for an unexpected miracle, one that will break every barrier you thought was unbreakable. You see, the greatest miracles often begin in the most hopeless places. When it seems like everything is lost, that's when heaven begins to move. God often works behind the curtain, in the dark places, when no one sees what He's doing. And when He finally steps in, when the miracle unfolds, it won't be small. It will be unexpected, undeniable, and unforgettable. I think of the widow who had nothing left but a little oil and a jar. She was preparing her last meal, ready to give up. But then God sent a prophet to her door. He didn't come with gold or silver. He came with a word. "Pour out what you have," He said. And as she obeyed, that tiny bit of oil multiplied beyond measure. The jar that was almost empty became the jar that never ran dry. What looked like the end became the beginning of abundance. Maybe that's where you are right now. You're standing in a place that feels like the end. The business you started is barely holding on. The family you've prayed for is falling apart. The dream you carried feels dead. But I tell you, God is not finished. He is the God who brings something out of nothing. He is the God who parts the seas, who raises the dead, who turns defeat into victory. He doesn't need favorable circumstances to bless you. He creates His own conditions for miracles. Sometimes we expect God to move in familiar ways. We think He'll open the door we're knocking on. But often, He opens a window we never noticed. Sometimes, He doesn't answer the prayer we prayed. He gives us something greater. You see, the miracle may not come in the package you expected. It may not come through the person you anticipated. But when it comes, you'll know it was God and God alone who made it happen. There's a man in Scripture who waited 38 years by a pool, hoping for healing. Every day, he watched others step in before him. He must have thought, "It's too late for me." But one day, Jesus came, and with one word, He changed everything. "Rise," He said. "Take up your bed and walk." No pool, no angel, no special moment, just a command from heaven. That day, a man who had been forgotten was remembered. A life that had been waiting was suddenly awakened. That's what God is about to do for you. When you least expect it, heaven is going to move in your direction. That problem you couldn't fix, God is already working on it. That door that's been closed, He's about to open it. That dream that's been buried, He's about to resurrect it. You've cried tears, you've endured the nights, you've walked through the fire, and you're still standing. That alone is a sign that something greater is coming. God doesn't waste pain. Every setback has been preparation. Every disappointment has been shaping your faith. Every delay has been divine timing. You thought you were being buried, but you were actually being planted. And what's been planted in faith is about to rise in power. The soil of struggle is often the birthplace of miracles. I remember hearing about a man who faced failure after failure. He lost everything he built, time after time. But each loss taught him something new. Each failure forged resilience, faith, and focus. Years later, what seemed like a life of setbacks became the foundation of extraordinary success. Because sometimes God doesn't remove the storm. He teaches you how to sail through it. Sometimes He doesn't change the mountain. He strengthens your legs to climb it. Maybe you're asking, when, God? When will it happen for me? Let me tell you something. God's timing is not our timing, but His timing is always perfect. He may not show up when you expect Him, but He's never late. When He moves, He makes up for every lost moment. One touch from God can do more in a second than years of effort ever could. So don't give up now. You may not see it, but heaven is busy. Angels are moving. Doors are being unlocked. Favor is being prepared in rooms you haven't entered yet. God is aligning people, resources, and opportunities in ways you couldn't imagine. What's been delayed is not denied. It's simply being refined for something greater. Your miracle may not come with thunder or lightning. It may come quietly, like a whisper in the night. It may come through an unexpected phone call, a conversation, a small act of obedience. But when it comes, it will shift everything. You'll look back and realize every valley had a purpose. Every tear had meaning. Every no led to a divine yes. Sometimes God waits until the moment looks impossible. Because when He moves then, there can be no doubt it was Him. You see, if it happened when things looked promising, you might have thought it was luck or your own effort. But when it happens in the dry season, when the doors were all locked, when you had nothing left but faith, that's when the miracle will carry His fingerprints. So lift your head again. Don't let despair win. The God who spoke galaxies into existence hasn't forgotten your name. The one who shaped mountains and measured oceans, in His hand still knows every detail of your life. He sees your struggle. He feels your pain. And He's preparing something beyond what you've asked for. Maybe you're thinking, it's too late. No, it's not. Lazarus was 4 days in the tomb when Jesus said, "Come forth." Dead situations are no match for a living God. What's over for man is never over for Him. And when He steps in, He doesn't just restore. He multiplies. The miracle that's coming your way won't just meet your need. It will exceed it. It will heal what's broken, redeem what's lost, and open what's been closed. It will silence every doubt and remind you that God still reigns, still saves, and still surprises His people with grace. Hold on just a little longer. Keep believing when nothing makes sense. Because just when you're ready to give up, that's often when the breakthrough is closest. The God who turned water into wine, who made a shepherd into a king, who took a cross and turned it into salvation, that same God is about to bring an unexpected miracle your way. And when it happens, you'll know this was no coincidence, no random chance. It was God fulfilling His promise right on time. There are times in life when God seems silent, when the heavens feel closed, and the prayers you've whispered for years appear to vanish into thin air. You wonder if He's still listening, if He still remembers your name. You've cried, you've fasted, you've hoped, but nothing seems to move. Yet, in those very moments of quiet, when you think nothing is happening, God is working behind the scenes. He's orchestrating events, aligning people, and setting up circumstances in ways your eyes cannot see. The silence of God is not the absence of God. It is often the sound of divine preparation. What you interpret as stillness is heaven at work, writing the story of your miracle one detail at a time. When a seed is planted, it disappears beneath the soil. The surface shows nothing but dirt, yet beneath it, life is forming. The roots begin to stretch, the foundation begins to strengthen, and soon enough, what was hidden will break through into the light. That's how God works. When it seems like nothing is happening, He's nurturing something within you and around you that will soon blossom in its due time. You may not see the roots growing, but that doesn't mean they aren't. The unseen is where God does His best work. Many people lose faith because they confuse silence with neglect. They think that because God hasn't answered, He must not care. But faith is trusting that even when you can't trace His hand, you can trust His heart. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, and forgotten in prison. If anyone had the right to feel abandoned, it was him. Yet, while Joseph sat in a dark cell, God was positioning him for purpose. Behind the walls of that prison, heaven was working a plan to bring him into the palace. The dream Joseph once thought had died was still alive. It was just being developed in silence. Sometimes, God hides your miracle until the right moment. He doesn't reveal it too early, because premature blessings can destroy what patience was meant to build. He allows you to walk through seasons of waiting, not to punish you, but to prepare you. If you got everything you asked for when you wanted it, you wouldn't be ready to handle it. Growth requires process, and process takes time. The same God who spoke the universe into existence could transform your situation in an instant, but instead, He chooses to work in ways that shape your faith, deepen your trust, and refine your character. Behind the scenes, He's moving people into position. He's opening hearts, arranging meetings, shifting opportunities, and creating moments that you could never manufacture. It's like a grand orchestra. Every instrument must come in at the right time. The violins can't start before the flutes, and the drums must wait for their cue. God is the conductor, and though you can't see the full arrangement, you can be sure that when He gives the signal, everything will come together in perfect harmony. Even when it seems like life has gone off script, God is editing the story. The chapters of confusion are not the end of the book. He's weaving triumph out of trials, purpose out of pain, and destiny out of disappointment. He knows exactly when to open the curtain and reveal what He's been preparing for you. Your responsibility is to stay faithful while He's working in the background. Think of Esther, a young woman who never imagined she'd be queen. Yet every event, from her adoption to her beauty to her favor with the king, was part of a divine setup to save her people. None of it made sense in the moment, but when the time came, everything connected. God had been behind the scenes all along, writing a story that would change history. The same God who worked for Esther, for Joseph, for David, is working for you. You may not see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. When you pray and it feels like heaven is silent, remind yourself that silence is often the signal of preparation. The architect doesn't talk while building. He lets the work speak for itself. In the same way, God is constructing something in your life that will one day reveal His glory. He's arranging things in such a way that when it all unfolds, you'll stand in awe and say, "Now I understand why I had to wait." So even when your heart is weary and your faith feels thin, remember that God is behind the scenes, working in secret places. He hasn't forgotten you. He's setting the stage for something extraordinary, something that will make every tear, every delay, every lonely night worth it. And when it happens, you'll see that the silence was not a pause in his promise. It was the preparation for your unexpected miracle. There comes a point in every person's life when everything seems to fall apart, when the doors that once opened easily are now shut tight, when the people you depended on walk away, and when every effort seems to lead to another disappointment. You look at your situation and think, this must be the end. But what if it isn't? What if the place that feels like the end is actually the beginning of something divine? Because with God, endings are never final. They are simply transitions into transformation. What you see as a breakdown is often God's setup for a breakthrough. When Jesus hung on the cross, the world thought it was over. His followers scattered, his enemies rejoiced, and even the sky went dark. It looked like defeat, but what they didn't realize was that the cross was not the end. It was the doorway to resurrection. What looked like failure was actually the foundation for victory. God has a way of turning what appears to be the end of the story into the greatest chapter of your destiny. He specializes in bringing life out of death, hope out of despair, and purpose out of pain. Maybe you've lost something precious, a dream that didn't come true, a relationship that fell apart, an opportunity that slipped away. It hurts and it feels final. But just because something ended doesn't mean your story is over. Sometimes God closes a chapter because He's preparing to write a new one. The job you lost might be the reason. He's leading you to a better one. The door that slammed shut may be the very thing pushing you toward the open door. He's already prepared. You might not understand it now, but later you'll look back and see that what felt like a loss was actually a rescue. In the Bible, Ruth's story is one of endings that became beginnings. She lost her husband, her home, and her security. Yet she chose to trust God. She said to Naomi, "Where you go, I will go." That one decision led her to Boaz. And from that union came a lineage that would lead to King David and ultimately to Jesus Christ himself. Ruth thought her life was over, but God was writing her into the eternal story of redemption. That's what He can do for you too. Take ashes and turn them into beauty. Sometimes God allows us to reach the end of ourselves so we can finally see that He was the source all along. As long as we think we can fix it, control it, or make it happen on our own, we'll keep striving. But when everything falls apart, when our strength runs out, that's when grace steps in. God loves to step into impossible situations because they reveal His glory more clearly. When He brings you out, no one will be able to say it was luck or coincidence. They'll know it was the hand of God. There's a story about Peter, a fisherman who had been working all night but caught nothing. He was exhausted, disappointed, and ready to give up. Then Jesus appeared and said, "Cast your net on the other side." It made no sense. He had already tried that. But Peter obeyed, and this time the nets were so full of fish that they began to break. What made the difference wasn't the place. It was the presence. When God steps into what looks like failure, He turns it into overflowing success. That's how God works. He allows you to reach the end so He can show you that He is the new beginning. When you feel like everything has been stripped away, He's actually removing what cannot go with you into the next season. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being buried. You're being planted. And what's planted must die before it can live again. Death precedes life, endings precede beginnings, and pain precedes promise. Sometimes we cry over doors that God Himself closed because we don't yet see the new one He's about to open. We beg Him to fix what He's already replaced. But if we could see what He's planning, we'd thank Him for every no that redirected us to His better. Wise. What you thought was rejection was redirection. What you thought was a setback was setup. God is not finished just because something ended. He's positioning you for something you never expected. You may not see it right now, but your end is just the start of something holy. The very thing that broke, you may become the birthplace of your testimony. The road that felt like it led to nowhere may actually be leading you straight into destiny. Because with God, nothing is wasted. Every tear, every heartbreak, every disappointment has a divine purpose. The moment you think it's over, heaven whispers, "I'm just getting started." There comes a moment when the storm begins to quiet, when the long night starts to fade, and when the first light of dawn touches the edge of your heart. You realize that everything you went through, every heartbreak, every delay, every silent season, wasn't wasted after all. It was shaping you, teaching you, and preparing you for the miracle that was already on its way. God was never absent. He was building something eternal within you. You see, the beauty of faith is that it often grows strongest in the dark. When you can't see what God is doing, when you can't feel His presence, and yet you still choose to believe, that's when miracles begin to move toward you. God is not a distant observer to your pain. He has seen every tear, heard every prayer, and remembered every cry of your heart. The silence you endured wasn't neglect. It was construction. While you were waiting, God was aligning the right people, the right timing, and the right doors. What looked delayed was actually being developed. Heaven's clock doesn't tick like ours. What feels like a lifetime to you is just a moment in His eternal plan. And when His appointed time comes, it won't trickle in slowly. It will rush in suddenly. When God brings an unexpected miracle, it doesn't just change your circumstance, it changes you. It takes the weary heart and fills it with wonder. It takes the story of loss and turns it into a testimony of restoration. You'll look back and realize that the nights you thought would destroy, you were the same nights that built your faith. The prayers you thought went unanswered were being woven into a larger design. Every delay was divine choreography. God never wastes a struggle. The fire you went through was refining your faith, burning away doubt, teaching you to trust in Him alone. The valley you walked through wasn't a punishment. It was a path. It led you to discover that His strength is made perfect in weakness, and His grace is more than enough. You were never walking alone. Even when you couldn't feel His hand, He was holding your heart. Now, as you stand on the edge of a new season, understand this: the same God who brought you this far isn't about to leave you here. The miracle that's coming will not just meet your need. It will overflow. It will heal wounds you thought would never close. It will open doors you never dared to dream about. It will silence every fear and prove that God always keeps His promises. So lift your head again. The same voice that calmed the storm is speaking peace over your life right now. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is working in your situation. What's coming will not just surprise you. It will remind you that God is faithful, that His timing is perfect, and that no situation is beyond His reach. Hold on to hope. Keep your faith alive, because the God who brought light out of darkness, who turned crosses into crowns and tombs into testimonies, is the same God who is about to bring an unexpected miracle your way. And when it arrives, you'll know deep in your spirit it was worth every moment of the wait.